Hey guys, welcome to my February garden vlog. Basically this month you'll see a lot of harvest just because most of the plants grown in this bed were started around October, November, and so now it's been about 3 to 4 months. And besides just generally harvesting the greens throughout the year or throughout the period, I can now actually cut down some plants. And so this is a purple kohlrabi. I got it as a free seed packet from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds, and it looks pretty big. It's about 3 inches in diameter, and so I'm now just harvesting it and sawing at it with a knife that I pulled from the kitchen. Took a little bit of elbow grease, but I finally got it out, and this is what the plant looks like. So it's a stem that swells up over time and sort of looks like a golf ball or baseball, and then there are leaves coming out of it. The leaves are edible. They taste a little bit like collard greens, a little bit like kale, but the main part you want to eat is the round stem. So yeah, overall these plants look pretty strange and they took up a lot of space to grow. So I'm not sure if I'm growing them again next year, but they are pretty resilient. So now that I've cut down the kohlrabi in the raised bed, you can see that there's way more space. There's tiny little lettuce seedlings that now will get a bunch of light. And then fun fact, I left the root in there after I cut the kohlrabi, and you can see that it's actually growing another kohlrabi, but I might just get rid of it. We'll see. So this is what the garden looks like. Everything is really vibrant. We're getting more days of sunlight, so the plants can grow faster and healthier. The kale is doing really well, and we have a bunch of Tatsoi greens here. I left one Tatsoi green unharvested so that it could form into a beautiful head, but the rest I've sort of been doing the cut and come again method, which is pulling out the leaves from around the edges. Here is the Tatsoi that I let go to flower. This one was sort of struggling and didn't produce very well because it was shaded by the kohlrabi, and so instead it just bolted. But I think it'd be pretty cool to have a lot more Tatsoi seeds just because I loved eating these greens. And it's exciting to see a plant actually go to flower, and hopefully later on in the coming months I can harvest the seeds and show you guys. Another great point about letting plants go to flower is that it attracts pollinators. So I've seen so many bees. Next, I'm going to move on to just the harvesting segment. And here, I'm pretty much ready to take out the entire plant. So I'm using this garden clipper or garden shears and just cutting them off at the base. I think the fact that I've already seen some Tatsoi greens bolt just tells me that, it's time to harvest before the greens get too bitter and they end up just taking up space in the garden rather than producing delicious greens. So here I am just cutting each of the individual plants. I'm not pulling it out. I'm leaving the roots inside. The roots for the Tatsoi greens don't really take up a lot of space, and over time they can break down and provide nutrients to the garden. So it's pretty easy to harvest. I mean, you're just clipping it at the base. Try to get as close to the ground as possible. That way you don't have a stem sticking up and just getting in the way or attracting, more pests. So in case you're wondering, how am I cooking the kohlrabi? Typically what I'm doing is I'm just cutting off the greens, and so each little leaf I separate, and my favorite way to eat them is in a stir fry. Although you can eat them raw and put them in salads, I love stir frying it with a little bit of garlic, salt and pepper, and it tastes super fresh and delicious. So I'm making quick work harvesting all this Tatsoi. You can see some of the other ones I'm cutting out have bolted as well, but one plant's going to produce a lot of seeds. Here I am harvesting the super beautiful giant head of Tatsoi. I think it's really fun to let these plants grow out just because they look prettier in its full head form rather than the cut and come again method. But you know, you got to balance that with regularly eating and enjoying your produce before the pests get to it. So now moving on to the other produce. So a lot of the watermelon radish that I started growing in October and November is starting to bolt. So I'm just pulling it all out and eating what I can. I find that if it's gone too far and, you know, it really has a developed flower stem, they taste super spicy, and so they're not quite as delicious as I would like. This is also another lesson in how ugly radish can be if you don't properly prep the soil. This was one of the first radish I grew, and this one was in the shade, and I pulled it out and it was actually perfect. So I was really happy with that well-formed root. Your ideal radish has a single taproot pointing down, and that just means that the plant had plenty of space to push down and develop its roots. Here's another container of radish that I grew in the shade, also started bolting or flowering, whatever you want to call it. And so I'm just pulling it out. These radishes aren't very big, so it's pretty easy to eat all of them in a couple meals. It's strange though, because in this container I have 4 watermelon radish. 2 of them had a pretty nice size, and then one was skinny like a carrot, and then the last one, the 4th one, just didn't bulb up at all. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe 2 radishes were just faster to get to the nutrients, and that's why these 2 ones look so great, but the other one sort of failed. And then I also grew some French radishes about a month ago. These grow super fast. So the watermelon radish take about 2 to 3 months, I think. And the French radishes, they're tiny. They grow in about a month. And so if you put them in an area with a lot of sunlight, they grow pretty quickly. And here I am just harvesting one of them. So the part that stays white is the part that is underground. And so any radish that shoots up will turn that pinkish color. Moving on, you can see once again the purple kohlrabi sort of taking over. So I'm just ripping these leaves off now. I'll see if they affect the bulb shape, but I'm not ripping it off at the bulb. I'm just ripping it off so it stops covering and hitting everything. And here I am harvesting the red Russian kale. This one was a little bit slow to grow, but now it's looking pretty healthy and the pests avoid it. So this is my harvest for one of the days. I pulled a bunch of radish and I harvested many greens. I picked out the nicest kohlrabi leaves and saved those. And then also I got a bunch of kale. So you're probably wondering what else I have going on besides a couple more kohlrabi plants. I have some lettuce going on in the back, and then I also started some snow pea plants. Those have been growing really, really slow. They take forever to germinate. I don't know if it's just still colder in February, so it's taking longer, but they're coming out of the ground. I was transplanting one of the pea plants, and I noticed that they have super deep roots, and so that's probably why people say transplanting doesn't work. All the way in the back, I have my sort of kales and greens forest. And so the purple leaves you see are called red streaked Mizuna plants. And then we also had red Russian kale and blue curly kale in the back. So in the back, they've had access to a lot of sun and they're doing well. Then here is my arch nemesis, the gophers. I hope they don't break into the bed, but fingers crossed. And then in the back, we also have some basil that's going to flower. Usually what that means is the basil leaves themselves are going to get tough, but sometimes flowering just happens and it attracts pollinators. Here's an update on my seedlings. These are asparagus seedlings. They're so finicky to take care of. I don't know why they keep falling over, but they're growing, so I'll let that go. And then this is an update on my carrots. I planted around January. They're doing really well. It's sort of a mystery how big the carrot actually is, but I might try digging it in a month. Here are my strawberry seedlings. Only 4 survived, but they're doing okay. I also have a bunch of tomatoes started and some mustard. And then here are cucamelon seedlings, or Mexican sour gherkins. I'm really excited to grow those just because they look adorable. Then these are winged bean seedlings, which sort of look like snow peas, but they're supposed to be a perennial and they have a really cool shape. Finally, I'm going to end with these eggplant seedlings. The ones on the left were started in January. The ones on the right were actually started a month earlier in December. And I found that because I started the first ones too early, they were shocked by the cold and stunted. So this is just a reminder that sometimes it's better to start over rather than nurturing a seedling that is struggling. So thanks for stopping by. Hope you guys enjoyed this February tour.